Hey, what's up, everybody? Let's take a look at XLM for a minute, and then we're going to look at XRP, Monero, look at the back test. So, if you look at this fractal right here, it actually looks kind of interesting, right? You could see um, both the price action and the fractal, right? Both had a pump, both had a pullback, both had this three-wave retrace, and then it came back down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it finished 1, 2, 3. We still potentially might need 4 and 5, and then a pump, and then a flag, just like a pump, and then a flag, and then a breakout, and then a breakout. So that's kind of how I would envision it happening anyway, even if we didn't have the fractal. But the fractal actually kind of validates what we've been thinking here, which is once again, like we talked about yesterday, once this wave is finished, I don't know when it's going to be finished. It doesn't look finished to me. It could be finished, but we'll talk about it. But I don't think it's quite finished. So, if this kind of comes up and then we hit the low one more time, that will look like a finished move, because then you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You'll have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll have that finished look, right? So we need that finished look to come in soon. So this could be maybe a flat here, and then we drop, right? And then we get the flag, and then we go up. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Something along those lines. So it's pretty simple, pretty basic, right? Because at the end of the day, we have an impulse and we have a three-wave pullback, right? So you could tell that this is corrective, this is corrective, this is impulsive, right? We're not getting one of those guys to the downside. So that's how we're correcting bullishly. So again, once this wave finishes, I think that's gonna be a good possibility we could break to the upside. So there's our little fractal right there. So something like that, which looks absolutely awesome in my opinion. I mean, you got this beautiful cup, you got another beautiful cup, you got 3 up, you got 3 down, right? You got 1, 2, 3, you got a 4 working here, and then we should get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will break us out of the resistance, and then that's when we can look at it finishing. So until that happens, I'm not selling, I'm accumulating. There's no reason, even if people think we're going into a bear market, which doesn't make sense because we've been in a bear market. Now, if Bitcoin goes into a bear market, it's going to be a lot more challenging, but then we would look for a retrace, and that's when we can see a move, something like that. Because let's see here, if I put Bitcoin on the screen, you could see even right here, XLM was hauling butt after Bitcoin was already in a bear market, already in a retrace. That's when you saw the rotation really occur. So if we fast forward, right? So everyone's like, well, why don't we have an alt season yet? Why don't we have an alt season yet? You know why we don't have an alt season yet? Because Bitcoin is not in a bear market yet. That's why. That's the only thing that makes sense, because when do we get alt seasons? We get alt seasons when Bitcoin goes into a bear market, right? Look back over here. I'll have to go to Bitcoin real quick. If you look back over here, you can see, just look at XRP versus Bitcoin here. Now watch. So let me take a line, and you're going to be blown away. Look at this right here. Watch this. So here's XRP. First of all, XRP didn't go on a route. It didn't go on a real bull run. Let's just keep that in mind. But this is XRP's basically its biggest move during the 2021 cycle. So, which by the way, XRP didn't participate. It was a retrace. But I'm going to put a line right when we really blast it off, right there. Okay. So let me get rid of Bitcoin real quick. And you can see, we're going to hide that. And we're going to zoom in on this. And you can see right in here, right? Bitcoin, look at that little flat right there, running flat. You could see we were building a base, and then that's when we exploded off the low. Okay, so where was Bitcoin? What was Bitcoin doing when that happened? And then also you go back over here, let's put another line right here. That's when XRP exploded off the low, right? Now, if we put Bitcoin in there, you could see that's when Bitcoin had already topped. Isn't that insane? Isn't that crazy? Right? So you don't get the massive rallies until Bitcoin has officially topped out. So if Bitcoin hasn't officially topped out, then that's why we don't have an alt season. The reason we don't have an alt season yet is because the Bitcoin bull run has been going on for so long. Because if you look at the Bitcoin bull run, it's going up a lot more steady, right? Like if you look at this one, we went straight up. This one, we build a base, we build a base, we build a base, we build a base, we build a base. We're going sideways up, sideways up, sideways up, sideways up, sideways. So what that does is it kills more time. It allows the oscillators to catch up. It allows the price to sustain itself, right? Because you're building a floor, you're building another floor, you're building another versus going straight up, right? If I take a stick and I put it in the ground, that stick is going to fall over. But if I put a bunch of rocks and then I put a stick, right? It might hold itself up a little bit better. You know what I mean? So it's all about structure. Now, go back to XRP. Now look at this. Right over here. You could see this is where XRP exploded off the low. But where was Bitcoin at, guys? Where was Bitcoin? Let me get rid of XRP now. So there's the line right there. That's when XRP exploded. Look where Bitcoin was. It was already at the top, guys. So what does that mean? That means, okay, why aren't we seeing XRP explode? Well, maybe because Bitcoin hasn't topped yet, right? Maybe Bitcoin hasn't topped yet. So this is not a top, right? There's no argument to be made that this is a top. Now, there's two ways that now here's where it gets interesting. There's a couple ways that this could happen. Either one, you have 3 down, 3 up, 3 back down, right? You have a 3-wave move, right? First of all, you have an impulse to the upside and you have a 3-wave pullback. Very important. So if the price continues higher, well, then maybe that's going to be the top of Bitcoin up here. And then that's when we can see Bitcoin going into distribution. And then that's when XRP takes off, because XRP only needs a couple weeks. Once XRP breaks out, it only needs a couple weeks to fulfill its endgame prophecy, right? So here's XRP right here. Look at this. It's already set up for us in a beautiful flat, right? So all we need is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. That's all we need. And that could literally last 20 days. 20 days, that's all it needs. That's literally all it needs is 20 days. So it's easy for XRP to complete its extension, right? But that's not going to happen until Bitcoin has topped. So the reason why we haven't seen an alt season yet is because Bitcoin hasn't topped yet. So there you go. See, nobody else will tell you this, right? I guarantee nobody on YouTube is explaining why we haven't had an alt season in the way that I'm explaining it, which is essentially the reason why we haven't had an alt season is because we have not seen Bitcoin top yet. So we need Bitcoin to top, right? Let's put the XRP back on here. So you could see all of the rallies happened at the top of Bitcoin. So that was the massive rally. That was a okay rally, right? And then we have this rally here. So if we are in a bear market, or if we're going to continue the bear market for XRP, right? What that means is, well, on the other side, Bitcoin could have already topped up here, right? Let me get rid of that. So let's say this is the top for Bitcoin up here, right? And then this was the rally. This was the rally that finished it. The problem with that is you can see, let's go back to XRP on this time frame and then get rid of that. You could see as soon as we pumped, it was immediate rejection. As soon as we pump, it was an immediate rejection. That's how you know it was the top. But why the hell are we not rejecting? Why are we building a base? Why are we building three-wave structures? Why are we building support structures if we're not going to break out and go higher? Right? Look at the difference between this top, and this top. Completely different. This is way more bullish. Look how flat it looks. It looks like a box, right? Boom, 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 right? In order to get boom, 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 in order to get boom, right? So that's where we're at. That's exactly where we're at. So we go back to Bitcoin. See, everyone wants to make a big deal out of it. You know, people are scratching their heads trying to figure it out when all they had to do was just come over here onto my channel and let me explain it to you. No, I mean, look, this is the deal. I mean, I don't see it any other way. Now, even if you look at Theta, right? Look when Theta exploded off the low. Let's get rid of Bitcoin here real quick. So I'm gonna hide Bitcoin, right? And you can see right here, that's when Theta really exploded off the low. Right there. Okay, so what was Bitcoin doing during that time? Well, if we put Bitcoin on, you could see the same situation here, right? Bitcoin had already topped. So there's the line, right? So Theta was going up, going up, going up, going up. When? During distribution. So let me explain it. If we're not in distribution for Bitcoin, that's why we're not seeing alts pop off, because we're not in distribution. If this was real distribution, which it could be distribution, right? Meaning we would still get the pump, but it would have to come down a little bit more and then get a retrace, and then that's when you get the pump off the retrace, right? So it could look something like this, like that, and then we come down, right? And then all of that's distribution. So we should see pumps during these pumps inside of the range, just like we did back over here. You could see right over here, we have, where'd you go? Right? You have a dump, you have a pump. You have a dump, you have a pump. You have a dump, you have a pump. This is a distribution range, and that's what allowed alt season, guys. That's what allowed alt season. So until we get that, we might not get an alt season, right? So that's the big thing, right? So that's exactly why. So what do we need to see? We need to see Bitcoin bottom, which I don't know if it bottomed. You got 3 down, you got 3 up, you got 3 down. It could be done, right? Or this could be 5. This could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it'll still be 3, 3, 3. We get down here to support. We build a base, right? And then we go into the retrace. Now, here's the thing. If the altcoins don't blast off in the retrace, that doesn't mean they're not going to blast off. It could mean that we go into a retrace, we pull back a little bit, maybe go into reaccumulation, but then we eventually break out and we go another leg higher, right? We go another leg higher, and then we go into distribution. And then that's when the alt season happens. Or when I say alt season, I'm talking about Ethereum, I'm talking about XRP, I'm talking about a few of them, maybe XLM, there's a few of them, right, that will get some kind of bull run, some type of alt season, some type of retrace. And that could even mean for Theta as well, like if even a coin that's gotten beat up so aggressively, like for example, Theta, you're not going to see like a crazy alt season like above all-time high, but you could see a retrace, a massive retrace. And then that right there, if you look at a percentage from where we are all the way up, that's a 500% move just to get to the retrace. Just to get to the retrace, that's a 500% move. So that in itself would be like a little bit of an alt season, but that's probably all she'll get, right? Because, you know, again, Theta went up, 50,000%. So it needs more. It needs more, right? We have an impulse. We have a 3-way pullback. Once we establish a base, support, build support, right? Then we can start going up. But if we go up too quickly, if we come down, we go up very, very fast, we're going to get rejected. But if we come down and we stay down here a little while, we build support, we move up, we flag out, we move up, we flag out, then we have a chance to actually break out. But that's going to take more time. And maybe we will get more time because Bitcoin, again, has been creating these bases on the way up on this bull run. And that's what is allowing us to have more time. It's allowing us to, you know, not get so exhausted so quickly, right? Because that's how Bitcoin likes to run. You know, it builds a base, it runs really fast. It has a big flag and then it runs really fast, right? Where last time we built a base, we ran up a little bit, build another base, we ran up a little bit, build another base, ran up a little bit, build another base. That allowed the price to go completely parabolic, right? Because you're building, you're coiling up, you're coiling up, you're coiling up, you're coiling up, and then blast off, you explode, right? So that's exactly what this is doing here, right? You're coiling up, you're taking off a little bit, coiling up, right? So you're just continuing to build these layers of support. So this layer up here could be 3 down, 3 up, and then again 5 down or 3. We don't know, but basically it's a big base, right? A, B, C, which would allow us to go up maybe in 5 more waves parabolically. So we would have like a finished parabolic wave, and then we would go into distribution up here. And then that's when we get the alt season way the hell up here. You understand what I mean? So the reason why we haven't seen alt season yet is because Bitcoin has not topped out yet. So that's why, right? If you look at Ethereum is on the verge of a monumental breakout above its all-time high. Look at this, right? So again, 3 down, 3 up, 3 down, right? Boom, boom, boom. You got a W, X, Y. You have a 5-wave move up and a 3-wave move down. which created a base. It created a flat structure to build upon, right? So then we have this impulse off the low, 1, 2, 3, and now we're flagging out for a 4. All we need, literally, all we need is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's done. It's over. It's done. Bear market done. It's done. That's all we need. So we don't need a lot of time. We only need one more wave, and then I can say, okay, yeah, now we're going into a bear market for Ethereum, right? Bull markets don't last very long. They don't. Bear markets last forever. Bull markets only work with momentum. Bear markets work just by unraveling and unwinding, right? So bears are way stronger than bulls. Not in real life, I don't think. Well, maybe, but in chart terms, you know. So if I put Bitcoin on the screen, now this is where it's going to get really interesting. So again, all Ethereum needs to do is break this range and go up in 5 waves. Okay, how could Ethereum possibly do that if Bitcoin is going into a bear market? Easy. If Bitcoin is going into a bear market, that means we should be going into distribution, right? If we go back, let me see here. Let's see here. See, Ethereum and XRP, or Ethereum and Bitcoin, like to run together a lot of times. So I don't see, let's see here. Let's take this off. So Ethereum really ran with Bitcoin, you know. So it's a little bit different. It's not like XRP where Bitcoin had to get way up here first, and then that's when XRP took off. So it's a little bit more correlated, which is helpful. But essentially, all Bitcoin needs to do, right? You have a 3-way pullback. All it needs to do is either 1, get 3 up into a retrace, and then maybe 3 back down, and then go for the high, right? Or let me actually get rid of that and then put Ethereum on here so we can see it better. Please and thank you. There we go. Okay. So here's Ethereum. So let me put Bitcoin down here. Again, if this is a 3-way move and then Bitcoin comes up in 5 waves and takes the top, well, that could be the 5-way move we were looking for Ethereum. Or if this is 3 down, we get 3 up, we get 3 down, right? And then we come up and take the top, and then we kind of go into distribution. We could get a lot of alt season during that time, because that's the same kind of tabletop as we had back over here. You see this tabletop right here? Look at the table. You see it? Right? You see this little box right here? That was distribution, and that's when we exploded. See, Ethereum is going up, but Bitcoin is going sideways. That's what we want to see, right? So if Bitcoin is going sideways right now, which it is, but alts are not going up, what does that mean? That means Bitcoin isn't finished yet. So we have time, right? Look, the bigger the market cap gets, the longer it takes to achieve certain liquidity volume profiles, right? So the longer it takes to reach to its target, you know, it's like look at gold or look at the stock market. Look how long it takes just to get 10%. Why? Because the stock market is massive. Same thing, right? So since the stock market is so massive, it takes longer, right? So the same thing with crypto market. Look how fast the crypto market moved back here. It was a little tiny baby market cap. Same thing over here. It wasn't that big, right? But now look at the market cap, right? Let's look at total for just a second here. So if we go to total, all right, and there's our old drawing from a long time ago. We thought we could get to, look at that. Wow. So all of 2025, crypto has been basically in a range. So here's the beginning of 2025. This is our old drawing. I haven't looked at. And oh, I remember now. So I have $5 trillion up here because that was Brad Garlinghouse's prediction for the end of 2025, which was definitely off, right? To say the least. But let's remove all of that. And you can see we are, the all-time high is a $4.27 trillion market cap, right? So right now we're at 3.44 trillion. So it's a big market cap. So big market caps take time to consolidate, to get going, to consolidate, right? Versus back over here, I mean, we were such a baby over here, guys. We weren't even $1 trillion. We weren't even $500 billion. We were basically, look at 300 billion, $175 billion down in here. So that's why it was very fast, right? And then we exploded up and it wasn't even that big of a deal. We basically went from, let's see here, we went from 260 billion all the way up to $2.5 trillion in literally not that long. This is insane. I mean, it took us 300 days to go up, $2 trillion. That's insanity. That's crazy. So now we're sitting here at $3.4 trillion. So we're not going to be spoiled with super high explosive moves, right? Because the market cap is just so big. Now, individual coins, that's a little bit different. But the market cap as a whole, I don't think we're going to see this move ever again. Look at the percentage on that move. That was a 700, well, the top, let's say 800% move. Okay, if we wanted to go 800%, well, look how long it's take to go 800%. I don't even think we're at 800% yet. We're not even halfway there. And it's taken 3-4 times longer, right? This literally took, I did it right here, from June. Was it from June to June? Yeah, so 1 year. Wow. So this took 1 year. Wow. That took 1 year, huh? Let me see. Oh, yeah, because I did it from here. So June 2020, and that's May, June. Yeah, so 1 year. Okay, so in 1 year, guys, we went up 800% for the total. I'm not talking about individual coins. I'm talking about the whole enchilada, the whole thing. This has taken a lot longer, right? Since 2023, 2024, 2025. So 3 years. So three times the amount of time, right? And we only went halfway. So 1 year we got 800%. 3 years, we're not even halfway to 800%, guys. So that's the difference, right? That's why I don't think necessarily that we have a bull market. Now, I don't like how we have 7 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Anytime you get 7 waves, it's not a good thing. So that's one thing I really don't like about it. So this could literally be the top, right? And then we can be going down. But if it is the top, I still think XRP could hit $7, $8, $9 because it only needs a 20-day sprint. Same goes with Ethereum. It only needs a 5-wave move. I mean, look at Zcash. Look how fast Zcash went from dead to 4.236. It happened really fast. And that's all it needs. So for example, this basically is Bitcoin. This chart is basically Bitcoin because most of the liquidity in total is Bitcoin. So we'll just say this is Bitcoin. But if, again, in order to get an alt season, 2 things have to happen. Either 1, we break out, we go into distribution. Or if we're already in distribution, then we want to see it distribute in here. right? We want to see a retrace. Maybe hit the high like this, a three-wave move. We have 3 down. What if we get 3 back up? That takes the top. Everyone thinks, oh, we're going on a bull run. But then what happens? We go down in 5 waves. And then we get another retrace. And then that's the bear market. But look, you have one opportunity here for Ethereum to go to 8,000, 10,000. We have another opportunity here, right? Because these are retraces within a distribution range. And you say, well, how is that even possible? Well, that's exactly how Bitcoin, or that's exactly how XRP blasted off before. Look, we come over here, we put Bitcoin on the screen. Let's get rid of all the drawings there, and let's make that a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to go right there, and then I'm going to get rid of Bitcoin. I'm going to take a line right here, and that's where we blasted off, right there. So this was our blast off area right there. So I'm going to take another line for the top, so right there. So there's our zone right there. Now I'm going to put Bitcoin on the screen. Well, would you look at that? Would you look at that? So all of the price action happened when Bitcoin wasn't doing jack bleep. It wasn't doing anything. It was in distribution, right? So that's when we got the explosion. All right. So if that's the case, then we come back over here, right? Put Bitcoin back on the screen. There's no distribution. We're going up, right? There's no evidence yet. Obviously, we have the MACD crossover. We have a lot of bearish oscillators. That's true. And we have 7 waves. That's bad. But if that's the case, then that means Bitcoin is going into a bear market. And if that's the case, then that means we should get an alt season, right? The only thing keeping XRP from going up and reaching its final target up here in a 5-wave move, the only thing keeping XRP from doing that is Bitcoin being left undecided on what it wants to do. Because if Bitcoin wants to go into a bear market, then we should have distribution in here, and we should have retracements. And if we get those 2 things, then that's enough for it to go up. And if you still don't understand, well, why would XRP go up when Bitcoin doesn't? Because that's what happened the last time. Bitcoin had already topped out. Look, Bitcoin's topped. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. And that's when XRP exploded. You go back even further, it's the same thing. See, here's Bitcoin. Here's the top. But then that's only right here. And then we crash. But then look what happens. XRP goes up. Then we retrace, and then XRP still goes up. So we had a massive crash. We had a massive, look at this crash. Let's put a measurement on here. How big was this crash? I'm going to go all the way down. Guys, Bitcoin crashed. You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. Bitcoin crashed 80%. 80%. Imagine that. If that happened today, it would be game over for everything. But Bitcoin crashed 80% simultaneously while Bitcoin was crashing 80%. XRP was blasting off 360% up. So Bitcoin was going down 80%. XRP was going up 360% at the final move, the grand finale, the climax, right? The orgasm of the grand finale of crypto, right? So if we're not at the grand finale yet, then that's a good thing. And we're not at the grand finale yet, because look what XRP has done for all years, since 2025 through 2026. We've been building and building and building and building and building and building. So all needs to happen is let's just get one more retrace, or let's take the top, and then that's enough for it to go up. Because that's what happened here, and that's what happened here. So I think we figured out the answer, guys. I think we really, really, really figured it out. So there you go. But this is what they don't want you to know. And this is classified, right? This is like top secret credential classified information, right? I don't talk about this often, right? That's why this will go into a members only video, because this information can really save you. You know what, this is by far one of the most important videos I've ever done, especially in the last 3 months, I would say. Because basically I gave everybody the answer, now a lot of people know the answer, but they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you the answer, right? Because they want you afraid. They want you thinking, oh, we're going into a bear market, so I got to sell all my XRP because Bitcoin go into a bear market. So then Bitcoin goes into a bear market, right? XRP, kind of comes down too. But then Bitcoin goes into a retrace, and then XRP goes to $10. And then everyone's like, well, why did I just sell? Well, because I thought we were going into a bear market. No. Bitcoin's going into a bear market. Once Bitcoin goes into a bear market, and then it goes into a retrace, and then it starts going down, this is where the rest of the market goes into a bear market, right here. But here's the thing. If Bitcoin crashes, and then it comes up into a retrace, and then XRP cannot break out, then I will come out and say, you know what, guys? We might have to wait a little bit longer for this alt season to happen, because we really need it to happen in the retrace or a break above the all-time high, or if we do come down and then come up and then create another distribution range up here, then so be it, right? It's just going to delay it. So there you go. Same thing goes with Ethereum. Now, if we look at like something like Theta, I don't see Theta going into a full-fledged bull run. What I see here is we could still get a massive return. We'll still get a massive return. But it's not gonna go into price discovery. Now, Theta is at 47 cents. All right. This is a screaming buy. The reason why is because if you look at the bigger time frames here and you zoom out, the all-time high for Theta, guys, is $16. Well, guess what? XRP didn't even hit $16. XRP's all-time high is $3.30. It might have clipped it a little bit higher, but around that $3 level. And right now, it's basically in the $2 level. So in order for it to hit $16, it's going to take way more effort for Theta to hit $16. Because look, if we're at 47 cents, and we go all the way up to the all-time high, that's a 3,483% move. That's a 34x. Basically, that's a 35x just to get to the all-time high. Not even talking about price discovery, right? This is where the art of the rotation comes in, where I'm seriously considering swapping some XRP for Theta just because it's so cheap. It's 47 cents, guys. So if it went up, all Theta's got to do, let's say it goes up to $1. Let's say it goes up to $1.50. That's 200%. That's not a lot, right? It's not a lot. But if we get back up here, now you're looking at like 621%, right? And the reason I think it will come back is because, look, you got a three-way move. You got a very proportional three-way move. If I take this and I put it right there, and then I take that and I put it right there, well, my golly, that is pretty damn close. I mean, that is literally right on the dot. Well, not quite, but it's pretty damn close. It's pretty damn close. So the length of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the same length as this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if you look at the B wave right here, that's your B wave, right? So there you go. So you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then you have A, B, and C. So all you need to do, this is why I don't agree like, oh, we're barely going into a bear market. No, we've been in a bear market this entire time. Bitcoin's been in a bull market. The only way Theta can go into a bull market is if Bitcoin goes into a bear market. It's kind of funny, right? Well, what I mean by that is distribution, right? So if Bitcoin has topped out, so when do we get alt seasons? When people rotate into alts, right? Okay, so when do you rotate into alts? If I am all in Bitcoin, right? Let's say I'm all in Bitcoin. When do I sell my Bitcoin and put it into altcoins? When? When Bitcoin has topped, when Bitcoin is done, right? So if Bitcoin is not done yet, which people say it is, right? People are saying, oh, Bitcoin's done, it's over, it's over, it's over. Well, if it is over, then it'll tell us it's over. And if it is over, then we should get a retrace. And if we get a retrace and we don't get a retrace in Theta, well, then, that's not good. But what I would say is, I believe we will. I believe we will. So, this chart is a baby. It's in its infancy, right? It's a perfect chart, honestly. You got this perfect rally that went up an immense amount, $16. And let me just say, it will eventually get back up there at some point. We will see an alt season. We will see a massive bull run. But what do you have to do right now? We have to accumulate. We have to start buying in here, right? Even if it goes lower, 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 I'm still buying, right? This is not financial advice. I could be wrong. It could go to zero. People say, oh, Theta, it's a dead project and all that. Well, let's see that come to light if we can break this to the downside, but I highly doubt it. So as of right now, I'm just kind of on the sidelines waiting and seeing and watching, and I don't think it's quite finished though. I think this has to come down more. I think it has to come down a little bit more and retest lower part of that wick. So it just doesn't look finished. You got 1, 2, you got this big drop, and then you're kind of just hanging out here. So to me, it looks like we need to do this and then come down and finish and then do this and then go up. That's what it kind of looks like to me. But by that time, that's a long time away, So will Bitcoin be able to survive that long? I don't know. That's why I don't know if we will build a base. We could come down here, retest the wick, and then shoot up really fast in 5. But if we do that, it's going to kind of screw up the look of the chart. And unless we flag out bullishly, which maybe we will, maybe we won't. All right, let's look at Monero here. So Monero had and we talked about this too, that we were going to come back down and back test potentially here. But look at Monero. And this is another reason I don't think the bull market or the bear market is going to take over. Because if you look at Monero, it's still in the progression of completing its move. Does that look finished to you? So if we're going into a bear market, or if we're continuing the bear market, does that make sense where it just kind of just crashes? It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? You built this structure right in here. You have the sell side of the curve, the accumulation side, and then you have the buy side. And you're cupping into this resistance, right? So eventually it's on its way to break out, right? So I think it will break out. But we did get pretty strongly rejected right in here, which is normal. But if we zoom in, we can see why, right? You could see, this was sort of like a rising wedge in here. And we were rising in this wedge, and then we break out. It was an overthrow, and then it came back in the wedge. So bearishly, you could say, well, then we would get a retrace and then a continuation down, because this could still be a flat, right? It could still be 3 down, 3 up, and then we still have to get 3 back down, create a bigger base, which would only make Monero stronger, not weaker, stronger. See, people think when the market comes down, they think, oh, the coin's getting weaker. No, 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 no. What's happening is it's creating more market structure, and that in itself makes it stronger, right? So for example, what would be stronger for Monero? If Monero would break out right now, people would say, oh, that means Monero is stronger. Or if we went 3 down, 3 up, and then we had to come back down in 3, what is that? Which one's a stronger Monero? The blue one or the pink one here? Which one's stronger? You would say the pink one, right? But in reality, it's the blue one. Why? Because the blue one, when it goes up, it's going to go way past the pink one. Why? Because it built more strength inside. It's just like a gun, right? If I'm going to shoot a massive bullet, I need the barrel of the gun to be strong enough to hold the pressure when that thing goes off. So, you know, it's like if you're trying to shoot a 30-06 inside of a little tiny, thin, what do they call it? Monkey metal piping, that thing's going to blow a hole. So you got to have real hardened steel, right? So what this is doing is it's creating a stronger barrel. This is the barrel of the gun right in here. And it's shooting. And then when it shoots out, it's going to shoot a lot more aggressively. So 2 things that are happening here. Number 1, again, this could be on its way to break out, which is fine, right? But we also have this backtest level right in here. So all of these levels, and let me get one more right there. And then if we zoom in, there's our backtest level right there. And you can even I'll put the bottom one right there. So you could see Monero's building. It breaks all the way out, and then it has to come all the way back down and backtest. And let's see if we can hold the backtest to then get a retrace, maybe an ABC, or a continuation. Right? But if we get a reversal, so in other words, if this comes up and then it comes down and then we get rejected, then what's happening is we're creating a flat. And if we get a flat, that means it's going to be bigger, it's going to be stronger. So just keep that in mind. So I guess that's it. I mean, everything's down today. You know, optimism is down a little bit. Now, if you look at just some random coins, basically the coins that all look the same, which is optimism, right? You look at Matic, it's basically kind of the same. You look at Filecoin, where's Filecoin at? I just had it. Yeah, so if you look at Filecoin, right, we had this 3-wave move, right? Now we're coming all the way back down, because anytime you get a big spike like that, it's a liquidity grab, basically. So, but let's look at Litecoin for a second. Litecoin's still, in my opinion, very bullish. Because again, let's look at Litecoin in the context of Bitcoin like we were doing before. Right? You could see Litecoin actually moved with Bitcoin, not until Bitcoin got to the top, and then that's where it made it most of its move. So Bitcoin topped here, right? And then, you know, you still had a little bit more left, but it's not the best of examples, right? So you could see there's Bitcoin and there's Litecoin, right? So to me, it just seems like, look at the divergence here on Bitcoin and Litecoin. So to me, I don't know about you, but I think it should be breaking out soon, especially since you have these 3-wave moves, boom, 3-wave move, boom, right, boom. So You know, the worst case scenario is that this breaks to the downside, obviously. But if that would be the case, then I would look at it like a weird sea wave that took a very long time. So Litecoin has a very good shot, you know, breaking out of here and getting back to the retrace levels. I think that's going to happen. So we'll see. XRP versus Bitcoin's looking a lot better. You know, you got that three-way move. It's looking corrective to me, which is good because we don't want it to be reversing, right? So there's that. See, this kind of looked like Filecoin. So Filecoin was bleeding, and then it shot up massively, but then it just fizzled out later on. So as far as everything else, I mean, everything else is basically the same. Like you look at ADA, I mean, I just don't know if it's finished. That's the whole thing. You got this big wick here. So again, I've been saying this for a while. We could test 50% of that wick before we even get close to getting going again. Because, you know, you got 3 down, you got 3 up. So this looks like 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I don't think 5 is finished. That's the thing. It just doesn't look completely finished. And it just seems like, you know, this support can only hold for so long. So, you know, and then you have this downward line coming here. So is this turning into a descending triangle? If it is, we would get 3 back, 3 down, and then we would just fall. So I don't know if that happened, that would be bad, right? But if this can somehow turn into a bigger 3, and then we go into reaccumulation, and then we break out, I mean, that's an option too. So let's see here. I mean, same thing with Algorand. You know, it's got this 3-way move, but this move doesn't look finished. But once it does finish, I think we could seriously get a nice retrace. And then by that time we're retracing, that's when Bitcoin is going into distribution, right? So it's all going to be about how this unfolds as far as the timing goes and all of that stuff. Because what's really keeping me holding on to is the ammunition that we still have, right? You know, the ETF is coming out, Solana ETF, XRP ETF, regulation, another piece of it, right? And then we need a crypto banking regulation bill, right? Because the banks are the one who has all the money. And if they really want, you know, Brad Garlinghouse said if the banks really want to jump in head first, they need framework to do so. So, but the banks don't really want to do the framework kind of because they want to wait for their CBDC, but they know they're not going to get it with Trump. So it's kind of a weird situation, but as far as that goes, I mean, there's really nothing else to say here. As far as, you know, when we look at the small time frames, they do look bearish. It does still look bearish. You know, you have a big drop, you have 5 waves down, you have 3 waves up. And then this looks like 1, 2, 3. And then look at this, you have a 3-way pullback here. So it looks like it could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be 3 down, 3 up, and then 5 down. That would be a 3, 3, 5. And that would be 1 more wave down. And then by that time, I think it would be finished, right? And then let's see. The bull market. So we lost the bull market support band. I think it's the weekly. Let's go to the weekly here. So we want to hold the 50, which we're doing, right? So let's go to settings. let's put it on, let's go blue, and there we go. And then just get rid of that. There we go. So there's the line right there. So we have our 50-week moving average, and we could come back down and test it a little bit. We'll see. But we really want to hold it. And then we want to see a retrace. So again, you know, the line's different now. So, but again, you know, if this is going to be 5 waves down, we could have another wave down. And if we translate that to something like XLM, where we were just looking at the beginning, well, that makes sense too, because XLM might need a move down. So everything looks like it might need another wave down, but then it to complete the 3-wave move that we've been talking about for a whole freaking year, right? We have just had a 3-wave pullback that lasted a year. Well, gee, what happened the last time XLM had a 3-wave pullback that lasted a year? Well, look at this, guys. Look at this. We had a 3-wave pullback right here, and it lasted an entire year, from July all the way to July. Look at that. Exactly. That's the top of the wave. That's the bottom of the wave. This is July. This is July. This is 1 year. This is a 1-year 3-wave pullback. Well, guess what? Here we have November. This is the top right here, November. Well, guess what? We're in November now. So I don't think it's quite there. Let's take a line. We're going to put this one right here. That's November. And then I'll go to the very end of November right there. So there's your line. That's it right there. That's exactly it. Look at that. 24, 29. Basically, this it's literally 1 year long, right? Same thing here. 1 year long, had a massive pump. 1 year long, you want to pump, flag out, massive pump. So come down here, finish it, build the base, whatever. Come up here, flag out, and then get a massive pump. So that's what I think. That's what I believe. That's what I'm sticking to. That's what exactly how I think it's going to happen. I could be wrong. It could, you know, it could be different. But that's why you got to, you know, stay tuned for more videos. And I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm going to release this for the members, and then I might release it later on to everyone else. I'll see how it goes. But anyways, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.